You know, it's kind of wild when you think about it. Even the most celebrated creators,
Yeah.
people like Brene Brown, whose whole career is built on vulnerability,
Right.
even she's admitted to being totally paralyzed by self-doubt, feeling like a fraud when sharing her biggest ideas.
Yeah, it's that voice, isn't it? That imposter syndrome thing. It can just stop brilliant ideas dead in their tracks before they even, get off the ground.
Absolutely. Stops them cold.
And that's exactly why we're diving deep today. We've gone through a stack of source material that doesn't just put a name to that doubt, but actually gives you a practical roadmap.
Yeah.
So by the end of this, you'll know the three, let's call them secret identities
Mm-hmm.
of the imposter hiding in your head. And maybe more importantly, the one micro-action strategy that pretty much guarantees you can bypass that paralysis and actually start creating again. Love that. So our mission today is clear. Cut through all the noise. Pull out the really actionable steps from these sources on creative confidence. We want you to stop being afraid of judgment and finally share your work. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's set a scene, and I think this is going to feel really familiar to a lot of people listening. You've just hit some kind of creative milestone, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you finished a sketch, drafted an opening scene for your novel, laid down a demo track. You should be feeling great, that post-creation buzz.
Hi.
Exactly. But instead, what hits you is this, like, paralyzing wave of fear. The research actually points to these really specific questions that pop into our heads.
Like what? Like, who am I to call myself an artist? Or, there are real professionals out there and the classic, someone else could do this way better, so why even bother? Ugh. Yes. That feeling right there, that's the core of low creative confidence. And we really need to define what creative confidence is before we can build it up.
Okay, good point.
Because it is absolutely not about how technically skilled you are. We're not talking about being the best painter or the fastest coder or anything like that. So,
Yeah. If it's not about having perfect skills, then what is it? Is it just like feeling confident? It seems a bit vague.
it's actually much more tangible. Think of creative confidence as the belief, like a deep down conviction in your own ability to come up with ideas, to push through setbacks when they happen, because they will happen.
Right.
And critically, to share your work without that, that paralyzing fear just freezing you solid.
Yeah.
It's about trusting your capacity to be generative, no matter the outcome.
Believing you can create regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sources show how you build that belief. It really starts with self-awareness,
Yeah.
recognizing you genuinely have a unique perspective that's worth putting out there. Then it's fueled by practice. This is key. It's how you prove your abilities to yourself through small, doable actions again and again.
Okay, proving it to yourself.
And finally, it's sustained by community, getting honest feedback, finding support that helps you refine your ideas and just keep the momentum going. Okay, so that's the goal. Creative confidence built on awareness, practice, community. But let's really unpack the enemy here, this imposter syndrome. You mentioned it's not just one feeling. No, not at all. Psychological studies consistently show there are three pretty distinct types or faces of the imposter. And this is where it gets really interesting, because chances are you'll probably recognize yourself in one of these.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me.
All right. These are the three main ways the imposter shows up, all leading to that self-doubt and creative paralysis. First up, we have the perfectionist. This type sets impossibly high standards. Often standards nobody else even knows exist. If the final thing has even one tiny flaw, a typo, a slightly off note, a color choice that's 99% right, but not 100%.
They see it as a total failure.
Total failure. The whole project, and by extension themselves, they fear mistakes more than anything. This is like the writer who polishes chapter 1 for 6 months and never gets to chapter 2 because it's just not perfect yet.
Oh, yeah. Or the person endlessly researching the perfect tool but never actually starting the project. I know that one.
Exactly. That's textbook perfectionist. Okay, next is the soloist.
The soloist.
This person operates under the belief that asking for help or even collaborating somehow totally undermines their credibility or their, genius.
Right, like it's cheating somehow.
Yeah. They feel they have to do everything themselves in a vacuum or they aren't truly capable. This is maybe the designer who wastes 2 weeks struggling with code they could get help with in 5 minutes just because asking feels like admitting defeat. The soloist fears needing anyone else.
Like refusing to Google the answer because that means you didn't already have it in your brain. Got it. Painfully familiar.
Mm-hmm. And the third type, which is often kind of overlooked, is the superhero.
Superhero. How does that fit?
This imposter feels they need to excel in Absolutely all areas of their life, not just their main creative thing. So if you're a writer, you also feel you need to be an amazing marketer, a fitness expert, a perfect parent, a gourmet chef.
Wow. Okay. The pressure. Exactly.
Yeah.
If they aren't crushing it on all fronts, they feel like their success in their main creative area must just be a fluke, like they haven't really earned it.
Yeah.
All three of these, perfectionist, soloist, superhero, they lead to the same place, that crushing self-doubt that just stops you from creating. Okay, so we've identified what these three faces inside our heads. But the sources also suggest something really crucial. These feelings, these traps, they aren't always just us. They're often triggered by stuff outside of us, right?
Absolutely. And understanding these external roots is so important because it helps you externalize the problem. It shifts it from what's wrong with me to, okay, what in my environment is feeding this feeling?
That feels helpful already.
It really is. So the first big root, and maybe the most obvious today, is comparisons. Specifically, the highlight reel effect from social media.
Oh, yeah.
We scroll through and we see the polished final products, the awards, the rave reviews. We don't see the 100 failed attempts, the messy drafts, the tears, the sheer struggle that went into it.
It's like everyone's stuck in that brutal Mumbai traffic or maybe the LA freeway crawl.
Right.
Right, that's the
Yeah.
reality. But
Yeah.
online, all you see are the filtered vacation photos from somewhere else entirely. It completely messes with your sense of what normal effort looks like.
Precisely. That constant comparison, that miscalibration, it's just corrosive. Then the second root is our upbringing and culture.
How so?
Well, we often get these subtle, sometimes well-meaning messages growing up, things like don't brag or stay humble, or even good children are seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm. Be modest.
Yeah. And those messages, repeated over time, can train us to kind of mute ourselves, to dim our own light, to avoid standing out, which also means avoiding potential criticism.
Makes sense. Playing it safe.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that leads to the third root, which can be the deepest. Early criticism. If you received negative feedback, especially if it was harsh or maybe careless, during those formative years when you were first trying things out. Oof, yeah.
That can really solidify this deep-seated fear of judgment that sticks with you right into adulthood. So if we understand why we're afraid that maybe our environment kind of trained us to be cautious, we can start to consciously rewrite that old programming.
Okay, that's the perfect pivot. If the imposter is this voice running on old, maybe faulty programming, we need to overwrite it with, like, better data, actual facts. This knowledge is great, but it's useless if we don't apply it. So let's shift fully into the how. How do we actually do that?
Right. The core strategy, the mindset shift the sources really emphasize, is powerful, but it sounds simple. You have to consciously change your internal question. Stop asking, what if I fail?
Which is the default question.
It's totally the default. You
Wow.
need to replace it with, what if I learn? Start treating every single creative act, big or small, not as a high-stakes performance, but as an experiment.
Okay, what if I learn? I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
But, it sounds great when I'm calm, maybe meditating. But when that deadline is looming, or I'm literally hovering over the publish button,
Yeah.
my brain isn't calmly thinking about learning. It's screaming about judgment. How do we make that reframe stick when the pressure is actually on?
Okay, excellent question. And the answer is the microaction. This honestly might be the single most crucial, immediately usable takeaway from all this research for anyone listening.
Microaction. Okay, the sources are really clear.
Yeah.
You overcome that paralysis not with some huge grand gesture, but with tiny, almost ridiculously small, verifiable steps. Let's get concrete. What does that look like? And why is it guaranteed to work? It still sounds maybe too easy.
It works because you're essentially exploiting a loophole in your brain's threat detection system, your fear center, the amygdala. It lights up when a task feels big, overwhelming, high stakes. That triggers the freeze response, the paralysis.
Okay, but a microaction. It's so small, so low stakes, it basically flies under the amygdala's radar. We're talking sketch for just 5 minutes, write one sentence, record one simple chord progression. That's it. So it's too small to trigger the alarm bells.
Exactly. And by completing that tiny task, you instantly achieve two critical things. First, you build undeniable proof of competence. You have physical evidence right there. You did the thing.
Okay, proof, facts.
Facts beat feelings. And second, you generate momentum. You've broken that static inertia. That makes the next tiny action feel significantly easier to take.
So you're lowering the barrier to entry so much that your brain doesn't even have time to spin up the fear before you've already started doing the work. We're kind of tricking the imposter.
You are precisely tricking the imposter. And to fight the imposter, which thrives on vague fears and anxieties, you have to arm yourself with cold, hard Facts. Evidence.
Okay, well,
This means you need to document your progress. Keep a creative journal, but not just for random ideas. Use it specifically to note the lessons you learned, the small wins you achieved, even what you struggled with that day.
so it's like building a case file against the doubt.
Exactly. Then maybe once a month, look back at it. Reflect. This gives you tangible evidence to push back against that generalized fear. The voice in your head says, you haven't done anything worthwhile. Your journal says, actually, look at all these steps you took. Look how far you've come, one micro project at a time.
I love that. Building your own evidence locker.
Yeah.
And speaking of data, the research also talks about community, but with a specific twist, right? Seeking data, not judgment.
Yes, exactly. It's crucial to share your work in progress, the messy stuff, the rough drafts, but you have to consciously frame the feedback you're seeking. Ask for data, not just praise or validation.
What does that mean in practice?
It means asking specific questions like, what part of this is unclear, or where did you get confused, or what one thing could make this stronger? View the critique as information to help you improve, not as a verdict on your inherent worth or talent. Find a small, trusted group, maybe a mastermind, maybe an online forum where people understand this dynamic.
Data, not judgment. Got it. Okay, before we wrap this part up, you mentioned a hidden bonus, a tool from the sources we can use right away.
Yes, this is something you can literally do as soon as this deep dive is over. It's designed to put all this reframing into immediate practice. It's called the Imposter Audit.
Imposter audit. Sounds serious.
It's a forensic tool, really, a 3-step exercise to scientifically bridge that gap between your anxious feelings and the factual reality of your capabilities.
Okay, lay it out for us. Step 1.
List accomplishments, and I mean everything, big and small. Be exhaustive, courses you finished, projects you started, even if unfinished, positive feedback you received, specific challenges you overcame. Don't filter this list for humility. This isn't bragging, it's data collection.
Okay, list it all, no matter how small. Got it. Step 2.
Note fears. Now you list the specific nagging doubts that pop up when you try to create. Don't be vague like, I'm not good enough. Write the exact sentence your brain whispers. My writing is derivative. My technique is sloppy compared to X. I probably peaked 5 years ago. Get brutally specific with the fears.
Okay, name the specific demons.
Yeah.
And step 3.
Challenge each fear. This is where it comes together. For every single specific doubt you wrote down in step 2, you must find and write down 1 or 2 pieces of concrete evidence from your accomplishments list in step 1 that directly contradicts that fear. You force the emotional fear to confront the factual evidence.
Wow. That feels incredibly powerful. You're literally using your own history, your own reality, to dismantle the lies the imposter tells you. It makes me think of Brené Brown again, using the hard evidence of her actual research, her accomplishments, to challenge that deep fear of rejection and vulnerability she felt.
Exactly. Or someone like the visual artist James Victor, who embraces work that feels raw, maybe even imperfect. He's essentially using the data, the completed projects, the impact they had to challenge that internal perfectionist. They chose to act based on the evidence of their capability, not the feeling of doubt.
They leaned into the discomfort, armed with proof. Okay, so bring this all together. What's the big takeaway for everyone listening right now? The core message is this: creative confidence. It isn't some magical gift you either have or you don't. It's not something you wait for. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, you build it.
How? Through repetition. Through fact-checking your own negative thoughts using tools like the audit, and most importantly, through the consistent daily application of those tiny microactions.
Okay, so let's give people a clear action plan. What are, say, 3 things they can commit to doing this week based on everything we've discussed? Perfect. Okay, your 3-step action plan for this week.
Yep.
Number 1, commit to daily micro-creation. Just 5 minutes minimum, maybe 5 days this week. Tiny step, prove you can start 5 minutes. Totally doable. Okay, number 2.
Do 1 failure post. Share something rough, unfinished, maybe imperfect with just 1 trusted friend or a small group. And specifically ask them for data, what's 1 thing you see here? Not just praise. Practice receiving feedback as information.
Ooh, that's a good one. Leaning into the vulnerability.
Huh.
Okay, and number 3.
Complete the imposter audit. Right now, today, if possible. List those accomplishments, name those fears, find the counter evidence, then look at it again in 7 days and just notice if any of those fears feel smaller.
Micro-creation, sharing for data, and the imposter audit. Love it. It really feels like every time you choose to create despite that fear, every time you take one of those tiny steps, you're actively, tangibly rewriting that inner narrative. You're shifting it from fear to proof of your own capacity. Your voice, your ideas, they really do deserve to be heard.
Absolutely.
So if you found value in this deep dive, please share it with someone else you know who needs that permission, that little nudge to start creating. And remember, every insight really does get deeper on the second listen, so make sure you save this episode in your library.
Definitely worth revisiting.
And you are not going to want to miss our next deep dive. We're getting into a stack of sources that reveal this little-known scientific reason why procrastination, wait for it, might actually be a secret superpower.
Ooh, intriguing.
Right. But only if you know how to harness this biological cheat code called the prefrontal loophole. We're going to share the shortcut to getting motivated that apparently 99% of people get totally wrong. You don't want to miss that one. Until then, keep creating.